Welcome to the RD2BE podcast. Each week we sit down with a different registered dietitian nutritionist to showcase the diversity of opportunity in the dietetics profession. Our aim is to dismantle the notion that there is a traditional career path. I'm Carl Barnes, the registered dietitian behind the scenes of RD2BE.
And I am Jenna Warnock, the RD2BE host. Our RD guests share their stories, career paths, and advice to help students like us succeed in the profession. This episode is part of our mini-series featuring the Accreditation Council for Education in Nutrition and Dietetics, otherwise known as ACEND. We are creating this series to clear up common confusion and misconceptions about ACEND and its relation to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, as well as the Commission on Dietetic Registration. We're also in a super transformative phase of dietetics with a new master's degree requirement, dietetics application process, and ACEND also created some new advanced practice doctoral standards where understanding these topics are crucial for pushing our profession forward. Join our conversation with Dr. Ryan Abusaba. She's the executive director of ACEND, and in this series, we're going to discuss what ACEND is, their new standards, and what steps you can take to uplift and advocate for our profession with these standards. Welcome back to another week of the RD2BE podcast. We really appreciate all of our listeners still sticking around because Dr. Abusaba has been a very much reoccurring guest because she is always just a wealth of knowledge sharing different aspects of dietetics that even I, as I've talked to people, haven't even thought of in the profession. And we're going to cover a topic today that I've talked about briefly with guests who were second career dietitians. They've shared their personal experiences with transitioning. But Dr. Abusaba, again, her being a wealth of knowledge, she has a lot of expertise and understanding with her past education experience as a professor, and also, with her being the executive director of ACEND, seeing a lot of the nuance with the education requirements for transitioning in second career for people interested in having dietetics as their second career. So that's going to be what we talk about with Dr. Abusaba. Now, if this is your first episode listening in with her, we have about 8 or 9 episodes kind of stringed along, and we've talked anywhere along the new master's degree requirements, the new doctoral standards that they're setting up, interviewing skills, job preparation, pretty much the whole professional development spectrum. So feel free to reach out and check out those videos. But we are welcoming Dr. Ryan Abusaba today yet again. She's the executive director of ACEND. And we're super excited to talk about if you're interested in transitioning careers into dietetics. But thank you so much for joining us again.
Hi, Jenna. Good to be here again. Always a pleasure. Very happy to talk about this very important topic.
Yeah, certainly. And I think one thing too to note before we dive in is large population of listeners with RD2BE are second career dietitians or people in, a first career wanting to transition to dietetics. So this is very much a popular topic for people who listen in. So the first opening question that I want to ask you is, say that someone's on the fence, and this is a very big decision if you're transitioning from one career to the next. And so for someone who really doesn't know how to go about deciding, how would you recommend deciding for switching careers and whether or not that's the right decision?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the most important thing is to really make sure you see where you are in life, right? It is something you've been thinking about a lot? Is it something that you often are talking about in your head? You always wish you did it. I used to get students who come to me, meet with me, and then just tell me that has always been what they wanted to do. They love dietetics. And then we talk about it, and they're like, oh, it's a little difficult. I think I'm going to go do this other thing. I'm going to continue with my job in marketing, or I'm going to continue. And you know what? 2 years later, they show up again at my door and go, I wish I did it before. So if you are really not happy in your career and you're thinking about it, explore it. You really owe it to yourself to explore it, because the most important thing is not to wake up every morning hating to go to work. You have to love to go to work. And many of us who have pursued our PhD, and I know, Jenna, you're pursuing yours, we go for that is because we know that with that education, we will wake up probably and have our career in our hand, and we're not going to wake up hating our job every morning. So if you are unhappy at your job, this is definitely a time to look into it. If you don't feel there's advancement in your career, this is a time to look into it. How excited are you about where you are? How excited are you about your first career? If you don't have a lot of excitement, this is probably a good time to explore it. Then look at where you are. Is there plenty of jobs? If you decided you are in this position that, let's say you're in marketing and you're in this position and you don't like it and you want to change jobs, how easy can it be for you to change job? Think about that. Because in dietetics, you can change jobs anytime you want. And you can go from clinical to food service to community to whatever you want. So is this something that's going to impact where you are? If you're somebody who gets bored in your job, you like to change often, then maybe dietetics is the career for you. So all of these things is for you to ask yourself if you want to do it or not. My best thing for you to do is make a pros and cons list, put in what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what's easy for you, what's your worst case scenario, what happens if you switch, what's the best case scenario for you to switch. And this just usually tells you if you're ready or not, because you start putting the cons. And if you're putting the cons and going, well, yeah, I see that, but I can get around it. You know you want to switch and you're really trying to talk yourself into switching. So I'm a huge proponent of pros and cons list. I do everything. I put in a pros and cons list. And I think if you're seriously thinking about it, do it. Don't hold off, because you will regret holding off. The best thing also to do if you're not sure, why don't you go shadow a dietitian? Shadow, see there's a dietitian in the long-term care facility near you, in the hospital near you, in food service, whatever you find a dietitian, maybe at WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children program, at the 4-H program, wherever you know of a dietitian that is willing to let you join them and just see what a day looks like. Your community dietitian usually always have the space to let you in, more so than the clinical ones. Just go shadow and see what a dietitian does and see if it inspires you. Usually you'll come back so excited. You might want to do this.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm glad that you offer that kind of middle ground where, you don't have to throw all your eggs in one basket for deciding whether or not dietetics is a career for you. And one other thing, other than shadowing, is we have this wonderful podcast where we interview, like, our goal is to interview a plethora of dietitians with a bunch of diverse backgrounds to show that you can have, if you are interested in clinical, if you are interested in community or food service, those kind of three core primary directions that people go for dietetics, there's also so much more ample list of other professional, roles that you can have as a dietitian. And so truly the world's your oyster and you can gather information before making that decision. And I think what's also great about that pros and cons list in the advice that you just gave is it's not just applicable to, oh, do I switch to dietetics, but any major life decision that you have. Like pros and cons lists, that's what made me decide to switch from a master's degree to a PhD, and making that worst best case scenario and having a backup plan, but then, bottom line, leading to action at some point, either, deciding to stay in your career or deciding to make that pivot. Now, to kind of segue to if someone does decide that they want to make that pivot, I think one of the biggest things on that cons list could be affordability or the costs of transitioning. And this is probably the number one that we get from listeners as far as, do I make that shift? It's going to be crazy expensive. It's already expensive to become a dietitian, all of these types of things. But for those who really do have that calling, how or what are the best methods that these students can go about for affording that career switch?
Mm-hmm. Before I go to that, I'm going to say, depending on your career now, it is so important to know where you are now. For example, and I have to apologize to all of those with the careers I'm going to mention, but they're the ones that I have noticed over time don't produce salaries, don't produce advancement. The students get stuck working at a grocery store. Exercise physiology, one of your first ones, because students think they're going to go out there, be sports teachers and sports trainers and do all of this, and they go and spend all that money and get into a master's degrees and everything, and all of a sudden there are no jobs. They're sitting working at a grocery store or at CVS. That if you're in that career, man, I don't think you have to think about affordability. You're not making money off of that, everything you did. It is time probably. If you're not in a strong position, the likelihood of getting a position will be a little tougher. So really think about where you are with that career and where you want to go. Unless you're willing to go to grad school, that's different. Not master's, I mean PhD grad school. Then, psychology. You graduate from psych. You graduate from political science, journalism, English major, right? All of these, even sometimes marketing and communication, the students have a hard time finding jobs. So if you are one of those who your first career, you did it at a liberal arts, you really enjoyed your liberal arts education, but then you're noticing that getting jobs is very difficult, advancing in those jobs is difficult. That is a huge pro to moving into dietetics. Why? Because you have a secure career, gonna give you the money, gonna pay back off your loans. It will really help you out in the future. You'll pay it slowly because dietetics is not ludicrous like medical school where you're gonna make hundreds of thousands, but the cost of dietetics has been shown to be very good on return of an investment, where the money you take out, you will usually pay it back in a good way. So the salary you come out is higher than the money you take out. So that's always how you look at return on investment. For example, return on investment for PAs, they sometimes their average, the money they take out is $300,000 and they come out making $100,000. That's not good return on investment, right? And that's what the Department of Education looks at. Whereas in dietetics, the average is about 75,000, which is a house, not very little, but you're gonna come out making 75, now hopefully 80,000. And so that return on investment is good and you're able to pay it. So these are the first things you need to tell yourself in terms of affordability and, what can you do? So look at where you are, look at the career you're in, are you finding jobs and are you happy? Then you wanna shop around for different programs. In dietetics, programs can cost you $15,000, $10,000 a year, up to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And take the emotion out of it. I mean, students were like, but I like this program. And I'm like, but it's $75,000 a year. You should not go to a program that's going to put you in debt. Are you going to be $75,000 more happy? Or are you in the future going to be $75,000 more miserable every year paying that debt down? And I'm talking per year here. So be careful, shop around. There are dietetic internships that are free. There are dietetic internships that pay you money. So you owe it to yourself to do your homework. Then look at all the courses. You come from a career, you can already transfer a lot of courses into dietetics. Psych, that's probably English and psych are the hardest to transfer. But you still have your statistics that will transfer automatically, your intro to psych, and your counseling. Those will transfer. If you're exercise physiology, you're going to transfer half of your program. So you only have maybe a year or a year and a half to finish. That's great return on investment. So I'm mentioning the programs. These are where all my students came from, right? Psych was huge, marketing, exercise phys. This is mostly where my second career students, I got them from. And half of my class was second career students, but I, really made my bread and butter of advising those students. Then when you're shopping, look for a program that's going to let you transfer those courses or transfer as many courses as you can. This is like shopping for the best house or shopping for the best car. You are going to go into a dozen programs, contact them, and make a table and compare. And the one that's going to give you the least amount of courses to do, the least amount of cost, look at that. This is the one you do. So you have to do your homework. And, And then in the end, you have a job right now. You're working, you have money come in. You're not thinking about spending $5 or $10. All of a sudden, you're a grad student, and the $10 matters. So you're going to have to fix your lifestyle a little bit. You may not be able to afford the clothes or the, getting your hair done as often. But the great thing about school is you're going to be around students who are in the same boat that you are, and you don't feel it. You actually just enjoy it, and you don't feel all of a sudden that you need to be, carrying that Louis Vuitton bag or whatever. You really can be in the same lifestyle as the students around you. And finally, and I know, Jenna, I don't know if you've ever done something about all the scholarships available, but the Academy has multitude of scholarships. My daughter got a scholarship from somewhere in the state. So and it was like $3,000. So you can find 3 or 4 or 5 different scholarships. Just put in the time. Some of them no one applies to. So you applying might right away give you like a few $1,000s to help you out with the education. So affordability is really about doing your homework and putting in the time into it. And just again, that pros and cons you said, Jenna, are you willing? Is it worth it for you?
Yeah, certainly. And a note on the scholarships is if, you're coming from an English or more of like that social sciences background with not so much of those hard sciences that you need for dietetics, and you do community college first. What's really great too is there are scholarships within a community college. And what's also great is the competition pool tends to be a lot smaller. And so that also increases your likelihood. And what that also means in community college is if you get $1,000, $2,000 scholarship, that could cover a full like a full-time semester at community college. And if you're not having to relocate, that means that you can pretty much help get a significant amount of those prereqs covered. And similar to the Academy scholarships, I mean, I'm grateful to have been a recipient of 2 of them, and that's just been from, and what's nice is that they apply to like multiple scholarships. So you just do one application portal and it applies to, whichever ones you qualify for. And exactly to what you said, it's the pros and cons of are you willing to put in the time, and given where your current situation is, do you see that return on investment happening if you do put more of that effort into this new career trajectory? And so you mentioned, window shopping or looking at different programs, seeing which ones best align and fit to you. How would you recommend students go about connecting with programs? Like, what's the most efficient way to get contact with a program director, the best way to kind of parse out which ones are best for them, things like that?
Yeah, so Jenna, when I mentioned this podcast for you, it was because I was training with a trainer who came from exercise physiology and had a graduate degree in exercise phys and was just a trainer, right? So, while I adored what she did and it was so valuable to me, she always felt she's not making enough money to you know to 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 hold her, to buy a house or to just the money with somebody who was a 4.0 student with a graduate degree in exercise phys. You would think they should be making a lot more, and she was working as a trainer, and because that's the job she could find. And so and was in love with dietetics. And I was trying to guide her into going into dietetics because I was like, look, you have so much. You go into dietetics, you're guaranteed the job, you're guaranteed the money, you're going to quadruple the money you're making right now. She loved the idea. And what happened is with her experience, because of all the stoppers that she found, that's where she ended up not going into dietetics because there was just so many barriers. And I thought, man, if I was not guiding her, one, she would have gave up way longer before. But how many students are giving up because nobody's guiding them? I guided her where she got very, very close. And then in the end, she got a job somewhere else. But the most important thing that you can do is you have to connect with the program. So you need to go to the ACEND webpage. And on our webpage, if you go on our webpage, you have on the side, that first thing that comes up is called Accredited Dietetics Programs Directory. So Accredited Dietetics Program Directory, it has the picture of a lady, of a young lady. You go in there, and that's a directory that you search the programs. And your searches can be very detailed. You want a didactic program in dietetics, which is you want to go into a bachelor's program and then go into a dietetic internship, which if you could be lucky enough that those could be cheaper, because the DI, sometimes they pay you. If you're a stellar student, you get into a VA, you're making money in that DI, into a VA internship. There's a lot of hospital internships now that are paying. So if your DPD program will only tell you that you have to take 10 courses, and you're exactly what you talked about. You go to the community college and you take those courses at the community college, and then you come back and you only have 8, 9 courses to do with the program, and then you go get paid for the DI. That's probably a cheap pathway compared to going into a coordinated program. And the coordinated program is all directly graduate school, and the supervised practice, which is the DI, all together in one, but they're at universities and you have to pay for all of it. So you have to measure, you have to decide, but really go to the ACEND webpage, search for these programs, and you can search under distance education, you can search those who have GRE requirements, you can search for those who will let you not take a second bachelor's degree. You can only do, they're called DPD verification statement. That means it's only a single degree. So if you go into that program directory, this is where you want to go in from the ACEND main website. And then it gives you that directory and you look at all the filters. If you want a bachelor's degree with a DI, you can just go for the bachelor's degree. Or if you want to directly go to a master's, you can press on this one. But you can look for if they want GRE scores. Or one of the things that I would look for, if you already have an undergrad degree, look for programs that already don't have to make you take an entire degree again. They will be willing to only give you a verification statement, and then your program features. You have, if they're willing to transfer credits for you, or if they have transfer agreements with community colleges. Look at if you have connections with dietetic interns, with the hospitals already. Those programs will let you use the hospitals near you, near your home, those facilities near where you want. If you want a program that is fully in person, all of these can give you ways to search. And then what state you want to be in. Are you from Delaware? So you want it to be in Delaware. You want the programs in Delaware. You want, let's say, coordinated program that's in Delaware, and then you can search it and it will give you the programs in Delaware. If you want a graduate program, they're both graduate level. They're just almost the same levels. Delaware's a tiny state. I can do a lot. Different one. Let's do California. You're going to get quite a few. So you get these programs, and then you look at the program director's name and their email, and you send information to the program director. So look at this website, see what programs you need, and then you can decide who you want to talk to and look for these programs to help you out. Then you want to email that program director directly. And I'm going to say select about 12 programs minimum, because probably a third of them will not answer you. A third of them, you're not going to like the answer because they're going to tell you you're going to complete, 60 courses, right? So you want to look as many programs as you can. Your uncle lives somewhere. Look at programs where your uncle lives and you can live with your family. Look at places where you're willing to move, or online programs. And then try to connect with these programs and tell them what the courses you have. You might want to send them your syllabus, your transcripts. They don't have to be official. They can evaluate them quickly, and then they can let you know, how many courses you need. You can just go back and argue a little bit, but I would not use the word argue, but maybe tell them, well, I took anatomy and physiology and I have a lab. Why aren't you accepting my lab? Or why are you making me retake anatomy and physiology? Can I send you my syllabus for that class? But anyway, so you go in and ask these and see which ones will tell you how many courses. Then, based on the courses, look at the community college near you and see which of these courses your community college will be willing has offered. And then ask the faculty, can I take these at a community college? I mean, I used to have my students take intro to nutrition, food science, intro to food science. I used to have them take all their psych, all their statistics, their, general chemistry, all of that stuff they were taking at community colleges, saving the students $25,000, $30,000. And just like you said, the best way to go to a community college, take these courses as often as you can, as many of them as you can, and then you can be working, go into the community college, taking one course at a time. Within 2 years, you finish all your community college courses, and then you can enter the program. And you have worked for 2 years instead of stopped, right, and paid $30,000 to go to this university for courses you could have taken for $44,000. So that's the best way to connect with programs. Email them, tell them who you are. Some will not answer you, but some will answer you within 24 hours. And then work with those who answer you, and then tell them who you are, give them your transcript, see if they're willing to review it. I used to review my students within a week, within a day or two. And within a day or two, I'll give them a list and say, this is what you need to take. And they can go to a community college, and I will say, these courses, you can take them all at a community college. Just make sure you approve them with me. Like, come make sure that I'm going to approve them. Don't go take courses without the faculty telling you that they're going to approve them. So I don't know, Jenna, if you have any other recommendations for that. I know you have a lot of experience in this.
Yeah, certainly. And I'd say the biggest thing, at least because I did mine through North Carolina, both community college and my undergrad, is if you stay in the same state, there's a lot, like with community college to whatever program you want to transfer to, it is so streamlined. At least I can speak on behalf of North Carolina, but I know Virginia is very similar. But check with your state to see if they have a community college agreement with the university system of that state, because in North Carolina, if you transferred with an associate's degree directly into a bachelor's degree in any of the public universities, you automatically, no matter what, are admitted at junior status. So you pretty much automatically have 2 years of your undergrad under your belt. And there was only one class that I had to advocate to get coverage for, and it was just a quick email. You send them your syllabus, and then they're like, oh, okay, you're approved. And what's also great about that too is when you come in at a junior level status, this was something that I ran into that a lot of people don't think about is um, when it comes to course registration, they time it a little bit differently. And when you enter at a higher level, you have a bit more leeway into being force added into classes. So you even get more like priority. So for example, you need a food science lab and it's completely full. If you're a junior level like student, a lot of the professors are very understanding that, hey, you're on a timeline, you got to graduate soon, that they'll just force you add you into the class. But a lot of it, similar to exactly to what you said, it's advocating, not being afraid to send that email. Don't knock it till you try it. You can still be respectful while advocating for yourself, and just so long as, you fully exhausted all options, then it's like, you choose to do this class or choose to, force add or not. So definitely check with your state, I find. Like if you can just stay in the same state for both community college and the university that you go to, it's really easy. But not to say that it's impossible if you transfer like across states. It just requires more direct communication with the program director.
Yeah, Jenna, I'm going to add one more thing on that.
Mhm.
I love the tip you gave because I was in a small private college. So, but I remember at Penn State, all my friends transferred from the Penn State satellite campuses.
Mhm.
And it was just so easy. They were just like completely. I was at a small private college, and small private colleges often need enrollment. And they're a lot more flexible, and the faculty have a lot more power. So also don't start only looking at these big R1 college universities, these big known universities. When you see a program or a college or a university that you haven't heard of very much, it's small, those are the ones that are going to work with you. Those are the ones that are going to be willing to say, yeah, I'll give you that course because I know I have a lot of students. I can do without that course. They will work with you because one, they want the enrollment. Second, they give you so much private attention. They need the enrollment. So you are very important to them. And my gosh, our students used to get so much attention, but we also worked with them and we gave them a lot more courses and helped them go to community colleges a lot more than some of the big universities. So another tip is small colleges, not very highly known colleges, are ones you also want to target. They're big and they will work with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's incredible advice as well. And the last section that I really do want to focus on is like the work experience aspect, because not only is cost a big barrier, but I think another thing that holds people back is the mental aspect of, I've put 5, 10 years into this career and then it's all going to be thrown away because I'm going to completely pivot to this career that has no affiliation with, marketing, writing books, being a journalist, what have you. And so for someone who, has developed a lot of this work experience, how, when it comes to transferring it to dietetics, can that work? And we've talked about supervised practice with like the DIs, or, and we talked a lot about transferring coursework itself specifically, but diving a little bit deeper into the actual like supervised practice component, what can be transferred, what can't be transferred for that, and kind of getting more into that work experience part.
Yeah, that is a difficult question because there are some schools and some careers where your work experience can transfer into credit, but in dietetics that's not likely. So you cannot think that your work experience in WIC or your work experience in, let's think, at the Department of Health is going to end up giving you a community course credit. That's not going to happen. Or if you worked in food service and you were a chef, or that you're going to get your food service course. That is not going to happen. Very unlikely. You can, but one thing that Jenna, you mentioned is you can get it transferred as supervised practice. So you worked for WIC for 3 years. Maybe you can find a program that's willing to say, I'm going to waive you community. You just do these 3 assignments on community. I will waive your community rotation and you save yourself 2 months of supervised practice. So you might, when you see a coordinated program or a dietetic internship program, they might be willing to waive your work experience towards some hours of supervised practice. Don't think that clinical, they're going to do that. That's very unlikely. The clinical is very hard in dietetics, and we have to make sure that you've got that knowledge. So when they do, how they will decide to transfer is they're going to ask you to do a portfolio. And that portfolio is going to say they're going to give you the competencies, the ACEND competencies, like, you can do counseling. And you're going to tell them all the experience around counseling that you did. And you're going to have to give them proof that you've done that job, maybe a letter from your. So it's a little bit of work to get some of your work experience transferred. Some programs will refuse to do transfer experiences. So will not to do that. You can see it right on the website. They will say this program will not do prior learning assessment or something. It's called prior assessed learning, prior learning assessment. So this is the issue that you're facing. Everything you've learned and all your work is going to make you a much better student and much easier to navigate. It's not lost, but it might be hard for you to get transferred. But I have good news. ACEND this year, we are starting the pilot of opening a prior assessed learning service for our students. And what ACEND is going to do is going to review when a student comes to us, we will end up reviewing their experience. We'll review their courses, we'll review everything, and we'll give a report based on what they are meeting for the ACEND competencies and for some of the courses in dietetics. And you can take that report and give it to the faculty. And then the faculty, knowing that ACEND approved it, we're hoping that there might be a lot more likely to approve waiving some of this work, because we don't want our students to repeat work they've done. You don't have the money, we don't have the time, and time is money. So all of it. So look for that. I'm hoping by the fall of next year, we should have it done by like 2026, fall of 2026. We're going full force on it this year. I'm very excited about it. So hopefully you can send in the fall and see if we have it going. And we can do that for you.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting. And I think that also, I mean, similar to the directory that you showed us, ACEND's further case to try and push and advocate for having more people join the profession, making it as accessible as possible, trying to work around, some of the redundancies, some of the cost issues, while also having that balance of, it's very program dependent as well, and really boiling down to the student doing their research, making that Excel spreadsheet, doing those pros and cons lists, everything that you've really outlined very well to help the student decide what program's best, most bang for their buck, and also with what you mentioned, the return on investment. Um, so we already just like discussed how you recommended, at least reaching out to 12 program directors to account for those who won't respond, those who may give you a response that you may not like, and then, leaving that smaller, pool of, okay, I can work with these people. But do you have anything, and you mentioned like, oh, if you don't get a response that you'd like, you have that flexibility if you reach out to 12 people. For helping with that decision making. But any other advice as far as navigating responses that you don't like as much, or dealing with different program directors depending on what their responses are?
Yeah, that is hard. I think you need to find that program director that is going to work with you. And that's a personality thing. Some program directors are going to send you they're going to send you the email saying, nope, you're going to have to, we'll only give you 3 courses. Another program director will give you 9 or 10 courses. So depending on what they're willing to do. And it's all experience. I mean, I had 14 years experience because we needed students. So I was working to get students, and I had 14 years experience of evaluating coursework for students and then seeing how the students graduated and what mistakes I've done in evaluation, right? Like, oh my gosh, I gave up anatomy and physiology, but look, they're weak in anatomy and physiology. I'm not going to do that again. That's never happened. All my students were great. But I mean, I'm saying you had the ability to review the results of your decisions and become very good at it. So work with the program director. The more experienced they are at this, the more likely to work with you. They give you something you don't like, you question it, right? I have a lab in anatomy. Why are you making me retake it? Send a very polite, very nice email. Use AI to make sure the email is polite and nice. If you're struggling with it, very nice. Ask about it once. If that faculty is not gonna budge and not willing to work with you on it, say, I'll give you my syllabus, I'll share the syllabus, any of that. If they're not willing to budge, I would just say back off. And this is why you have to contact a dozen program directors. It's one email. Do not put them all in one email blind copied, right? Each faculty deserves their own email, very separate. If I get that blind copied email, which we get them sometimes from international students, especially, I just delete them. Because I'm like, oh, they're contacting another 50 programs. I'm not going to waste my time. So think about it. You have to give it, dear Dr. Abisaba, dear Dr. That's just really very nice email. And then just go with the other program director. I don't have better advice, because the program that's not going to work with you is not going to be willing to work with you.
Yeah. And like knowing yourself and what your goals are going in helps you also determine which program director's right for you. So, that's why we've talked so much about doing your research and then reaching out, because then it also helps you parse out even better which program's the right one for you and with that program director's response. And so kind of going back to, the pros of community college, being able to, chip away at the classes while working at the same time to kind of, build up that work experience, still make money while going to school. Any advice for students that want to do that, kind of get the best of both worlds while progressing to their new career that they want to switch to while still, getting money in and working at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, Jenna, all my second career students worked. It's not like they could afford not to work. I may have had one, right? They all had to work. So you really, it's doable. You can do it. I tried to work with them and give them only 3 courses a semester. You wanted them to be, it was a graduate program. You wanted them to be full-time so they can get the financial aid, but the minimal amount. Don't stress about time. It is better for you to have a good life through college and have one extra year than to be miserable, get disease, have to repeat classes, not do well, not learn anything. One extra year is not going to be an issue. And if you're in grad school, you're paying by credit. So it doesn't matter if you are in one extra year. It's the amount of credits you're paying for that matters. And it's all going to be the same if you do it in 2 years or in 3 years. So take your time. So make sure you give it time. The most important thing I've noticed, a couple of my students prioritize their work over their studies. You cannot do that if you're going to college. You really need to try to prioritize both, or your school should be first. Because when you prioritize your work, you're failing classes, you're not submitting your assignments, you're really struggling. So that's one thing that I notice always happens. One great idea is to always use a calendar. Make sure you put the minute you get the syllabus, right? I'm sure you do that, Jenna. Put down everything that's due. And I usually put down 2 weeks earlier. Remember, this is due in 2 weeks, so that I start working on it now. Because nothing a faculty dislikes more than the day once the homework is due, you contacting them, telling them you need an extension, right? If you give me a week, if you tell me, look, Dr. A, I'm not going to be able to finish this, this week. Could I please get a little time? If I know that you're planning it and you gave me a little time, I'm always willing to help. Always. Most faculty will like, sure. But if you come the day after or the day before, if I do it, it's because I'm annoyed. So, you really want to plan your time and give yourself time to work. You don't have the time to finish a homework overnight. You need the time because you're working. You have family. You have a lot going on. So the calendar is very important. Always do it. That should be it's the funnest part, right? All of us dietitians love to do this, love to organize. It's the best thing. Just another one, if you have a strong university like you did, Jenna, the university has so many resources, tutoring centers, writing labs, libraries. Use those resources or form a study group. Dietetic students love to study together and get together and study together. And those are also very motivating because you're coming from work, you're tired, you have a headache, you don't feel like working, studying. But with a study group, you forget that and you just kind of are more able to withstand it and learn. These are my ideas. I'm sure you have a few more probably you've experienced.
Yeah, and I'd say I'm probably, sponsored by community colleges at this point, but I was able to find a lot of work within my community college as well. And if you qualify for a work study, community colleges have work studies like all over. And what a work study is you get, paid, but that money goes directly towards paying for your school. And what I really appreciated about working at the community college was they understood exactly what you mentioned, the priority of school before work. So if they wanted to schedule me at this certain day, all I had to say was, I have lab, I can't do that. And they weren't going to fight. It was no stress and it was so much more flexible. And that money, I like worked while getting my school paid for at the same time. I did the same thing when I went to university because of that flexibility and the less stress while still being able to make money. And the main reason why I just encourage reaching out to that is just the flexibility and the understanding of you working. And it kind of takes care of half of that prioritization for you because the employer is the school that you're going to. So they're not going to try and be like, oh, no, you have to go to work before you go to the classes. And I absolutely do the calendar thing with the syllabus. That's the only way that I remember anything. Sometimes I also do an Excel spreadsheet where I have, the assignment on in one column, due date on the other. And then if I'm taking multiple classes, I color code each assignment based off of the class. And then fun fact, you sort the Excel spreadsheet on the date column in like ascending order, and then it has all the due dates in chronological order. And then it like makes all the colors look a little bit different, but it's because it's in, chronological order. Just if you want if you get overwhelmed by seeing a calendar with 50 million things on it and you just want to know, okay, going down the list, what's the next assignment I need to focus on? It helps with that as well. But no, I think you hit the nail on the head with everything else as far as balancing things go.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because I had a student that we loved her and we wanted to keep her, and we lost our AA at the time. So we hired her to be our admin in the office. And then I delayed hiring the admin until she graduated. And I would give excuses to my dean because I wanted to keep her because I wanted her to finish dietetics. So we did everything we could. Like the faculty, especially in these small colleges, they are your biggest supporter and your biggest advocates. And yeah, lots of support. I love the idea of work study. We had so many work study students, so many students that worked around with us, and really in community. I'm the biggest advocate of community college because you can come out with zero debt.
Mhm.
And all you have to do is that 1 year in dietetics, which could be 20,000 or 25,000. A lot of money, but man, it's not 100,000.
Mhm.
You can pay 20,000 in 5 years. So that's that is very, very helpful. Community college is fantastic. Half of my students were from community colleges, and they were my best student. One of the students I had that was from community college aced the RD exam, 99th percentile. So they are your best students, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it goes to show, like, coming from a diverse background, whether it's education or work experience, all of it can still be applied to getting you to that finish line of becoming an RD. And so to kind of round things out and finish things off, strong for hopefully this has helped people know the right direction to go for saving money while pursuing dietetics, working while in school, and gaining that work experience. I would also just say as a side note before, we do like the last words and things like that, is me working in school, that gave me the opportunity to become a research assistant in undergrad. And had I not had that research assistant opportunity, I would not be in a PhD program right now, just straight up. In that research assistant position that I had, it was 5 hours a week at most, remote, but that experience is what made me eligible for the program that I'm in right now, had I not had that experience. And so, just as another aside, for those who worry, oh, my work experience isn't transferable, if you're worried about that, you can still gain applicable work experience when you start taking those dietetics classes. See what professors have opportunities for you to work or volunteer with. If, you have to do a job that's completely separate from dietetics when you are in school, then see what volunteer opportunities you have where it's very low stakes, low stress. Because then those little things can possibly help set you up for, the next step in your career. But Dr. Abu Saba, we've again talked about so many great things, but any last words as far as potentially like, tailoring their last career or previous career into dietetics, or anything that we previously discussed that you want to really hark on before we close things off?
No, I think you've just closed it really nicely. I just say all experiences matter. It's how you sell yourself, a little bit of luck, and just exactly what you said about research. I had a student who came to me one time and goes, Dr. A, I'm really interested in the study you're doing. Could you please let me like do a poster about it? I was like, absolutely, come, let's work together and do a poster. She got the DI at the NIH. That was like one of the most, just because of that poster, because she had had that research experience. So it just, any experience you do matters, and really talk to your faculty and work it out. And if you're interested in dietetics, again, just plunge. I mean, do your research and do it, because you will not regret it.
Absolutely. And I'll leave links to everything that we discussed as well in the description. So if you want to look at the program directory, want to look at the other videos that we did with Dr. Abu Saba, the world's your oyster, honestly, as far as the information that she's provided for our podcast. But thank you so much again for taking the time to share all this great information and not just general advice, but actionable advice for people who do want to transition into dietetics to make the profession even more diverse and accessible. So thank you again.
Thanks, Jenna. Have a great day.